Next guest is part of the so-called Gang of Eight that officially released a bipartisan framework for comprehensive immigration reform today. He talked about why fixing our broken immigration system is a top priority.
I live surrounded by immigrants. My neighbors are immigrants. My family's immigrants, married into a family of immigrants. I see immigration every single day. I see the good of immigration. I see how important it is for our future. And as most Americans, I recognize how critical an immigration system that works has been for our heritage as it is for our history, for our future.
Well, joining us now is Senator Marco Rubio, Republican of Florida. Senator, great to have you with us.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for having me.
And here we go. Are you confident that this is the best path to take going forward?
Well, I think it's important to outline what we've been talking about. It's a set of principles. Obviously, principles are important. It gives you the architecture, the outline of what you want to do. But now you've got to work on a bill, on the details of a bill. And that's really where this is going to be important. And by the way, whatever we work on, I think is the starting point. There are 92 other senators who have opinions about immigration. There's a House of Representatives. I know we've gotten away from that process of making law around here, but I think it's important for us to follow that process in order to have a good product. This is a complicated issue. Yeah. Both sides of this issue raise very legitimate points that need to be addressed. But I think today was the good first step in what's going to be a pretty long process in terms of getting the right ideas on paper and ultimately into law.
Now, when you talk about going through committees, going through hearings, and talking about regular order here for the Senate, that's going to be a departure from their recent history, as you well know. Are you assured that that is what is in prospect for this important legislation?
Well, I'm concerned that if they don't, it's going to doom it to failure. I think what would be an error is to cook something up secretly and then bring it out to the floor and give everybody a take it or leave it proposal. I think it's important that we have input. And by the way, the House of Representatives is going to have some say here as well. So this is a complicated issue. And I arrived at it basically because I just think what we have now is untenable, and we've got to begin to address it. And I know that the undocumented issue gets a lot of attention, but what concerns me just as much is we don't have a legal immigration system that works for our country, and we don't have enforcement mechanisms that work. No sovereign country can be sovereign for long if it doesn't have immigration enforcement mechanisms. And then we have the reality of 11 million human beings that are going to be here the rest of their lives, whether they have documents or not. We have to address that as well.
Senator, I have covered this issue for some long period of time, it seems. And I put forward a syllogism over 3 years ago that I said I will accede to anyone's leadership on this issue who comports to resolving the syllogism, and it is simply this. If we are to reform immigration laws, we must control immigration. Right. And the only way I know in which to control immigration is to control our borders and our ports. Does that make sense to you?
It does, and the principles reflect that. The law has to reflect that now, but the principles do. One of the things we do that's not getting enough attention, it's a really big deal, maybe because I'm from Florida, it's a bigger deal to me, is our visa programs. You know, if someone comes into this country on a temporary visa, we know when they come in, we have no idea if they ever leave. So one of the things I call for is a full implementation of that system where we're tracking visas, entry and exits. 40% of our undocumented people in this country enter legally and overstayed visas. Right. The border, of course, is critically important. By the way, the border is not just an immigration issue. It's an even bigger national security issue than it is an immigration issue. And finally, the workplace enforcement issue is critical as well. Whether it's E-Verify or some other process, you know, if you don't have a control at the workplace enforcement, you're going to continue to have a magnet for people to come here without documents.
And Senator, one of your fellow senators, Ted Cruz, joining the Senate this year, expressing his reservations, if I may quote what he has said for our audience's benefit. He said in response to the proposal, however, I have deep concerns with the proposed path to citizenship. To allow those who came here illegally be placed on such a path is both inconsistent with rule of law and profoundly unfair to the millions of legal immigrants who waited years, if not decades, to come to America legally. Your reaction and your view?
Well, I mean, I've long shared the same concern, and right. I think that, and that's why we've outlined it the way we have. You know, what we do here for people that are undocumented is they have to come forward, they have to undergo a background check, they have to pay fines and back taxes and so forth, and then all they get is a temporary status, basically. Or think of it as a probationary status. It allows them to stay in the country and work, but they don't qualify for any federal benefits. They can't turn that into citizenship or anything else, and they're going to have to be in that status for a significant period of time, significant enough so that it's a disincentive to do it in the future for anybody. After that time has elapsed, and after we have certified that the enforcement things have actually happened, because the big mistakes of the past have been they've done the legalization, but they haven't done the enforcement,
right.
and hence it's led to 11 million people. I don't ever want to have to do this again. So after both the period of time has elapsed and the enforcement things have happened, then the only thing they're going to get is the ability to apply for a green card just like anybody else would, not in a special way, in the regular way, by getting in line, qualifying for the visa they apply for, etc. So all we're going to give them a chance to ultimately earn is the chance to do what they should have done in the beginning, and that's try to enter the country legally. And the other point I've made is they cannot leapfrog anybody who has applied before them legally. In essence, we don't want to see a single person who's done it the right way be disadvantaged as a result of this.
Well, Senator, I have to applaud the outline that you put forward here, along with your colleagues, the other 7 senators in the gang of 8. Let me ask you this, because you have said previously that it's important to you to see skilled and highly educated immigrants come to this country as well. And they have been, frankly, if I may, left behind. They are the ones who haven't even gotten to the shadows yet. Are we going to see a visa and an incentive approach to bring such people to our country? They're desperately needed, as you well know.
Well, I'm glad you asked. In fact, tomorrow morning we'll be announcing a bipartisan bill on immigration reform for high-tech visas, and it's a thing that it's a proposal that I think a lot of people will find exciting, and it's one that I hope will become a part of whatever package ultimately passes. Because you're absolutely right. In the 21st century, we cannot have an immigration system that where only 6.5% of the people that come here do so based on skill. Look, I'm a supporter of family-based immigration. That's how my parents came. But in the 21st century, our immigration system has to be more skills-based than it is right now. And that we try to take a first step at that tomorrow when we announce our what they call a STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and math visas.
Right. Terrific. Senator Marco Rubio, great talking with you. We wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you so much.